All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College EWD 1000 Web Development Technologies class, I've been preparing a series of video presentations based on the Mozilla Developer Network Learning Web Development Series. And I'm in the CSS portion, first steps, getting started. And before I go down to adding a class, there was one thing, it's not a big thing, but I was going to show you. And that is this star that's right here. I'm going to go and I'm going to open it with Paint. And notice when I go to Home and Resize, and I go to Pixels, it's now 100 by 100. I'm going to change that so it's a quarter of its size. So I'm going to put it 25 by 25. You can now see how much smaller it got. And I'm going to save it. Why did I do that? I just wanted to show you that when I come back here now and I refresh, now it's a lot smaller. See that? That's probably much more in jive with the size we'd want it to be. I could probably even make it smaller than that. Maybe knock it down to 15 or 20 or whatever, but you get the idea. All right, so as I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, and this is the section that we're in right now, which is on classes. Before we put in a class, we will put in what they have there, but let's just see how you might want to use this. All right, and that is like this. If I want the first paragraph here to be in uppercase, but not this second paragraph. All right, you notice I've got two of them. Well, let's first look at the wrong way to do this. All right, the wrong way to do this would be to say, hey, you know what I'd like here? I'd like to go to all paragraphs, and I'd like to use what's called text transform. And I want to set that to uppercase. Now this will work, but it's not going to work the way we want it to work. What do I mean? Again, as always, much easier to show you than it is to blather on about it. All right, so come back here, and is this paragraph now in uppercase? Yes, but so is the second one. And I didn't want the second one to be in uppercase. So how do I get around that? The easiest way is to go and take that paragraph and give it either an ID or give it a class. Since we're talking about classes first, I'm going to call this ID, I'm sorry, class, and I'm going to set that equal to upper. Maybe not the best name, but it's the one I'm going to use. All right, and I'm going to move this down to try to make this a little easier for you to see. Again, you don't have to do this. I'm just trying to make this a little bit easier for all of us to see. All right. Now, the difference is what we're going to do now is we only want to apply this to a paragraph with the class of upper. So how do we do that? We come in here, whoops, we come in here, and instead of saying P, okay, we can say P dot upper. That's a paragraph with a class of upper. Let's see if that worked. Now, if it worked, this should still be uppercase, but this should now be regular case. And indeed, that's what we have. All right. Now, what's the difference between a class and ID as we start on this? Well, what if I also decided I want this item 2 right here to also be an uppercase? Just that item 2. Then I could come in here and just like we did before, I could say here class equals upper. Just for item 2. And notice once we do that and I refresh, oh, it didn't work. Let's see. Oh, I know why. Because we told it to only be applied to paragraphs with upper. Now we could also say this. We could come in here and we could say li dot upper, and that should work. All right, so this should work. And you'll notice now that is an uppercase. I believe there's a shortcut for this though, where if we just say dot upper, that should be anything with a class of upper. Now we'll know this worked because nothing will have changed on here. Okay, so that's another way that we can do it. All right, so going back then to our book, or what we've been using as a book, as it says, so far we have styled elements based on element names. That works if you want every element of that type to look the same, but most of the time that won't be what you want. So I just showed you an example of the class attribute. And here we'll do the same thing they've got class equals special, that's fine, and they want special to look like this. All right, so what I'm going to do is a couple things here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into here and I'm going to remove from this one the class equals upper, and we're going to set it to class equals special. You can put more than one class in here. You just separate it with a space, no commas, no anything, just a space. Probably can use more than one space. I've never tried that, but I don't know why you couldn't. So there's that. And in here, now we're going to say, anytime you've got the class special, it should be orange and bold. So let's see if that worked. Well, again, immediate feedback, as I mentioned to you before. You'll be able to look at this and immediately tell if it went orange and bold, and it will not be uppercase anymore. And it is orange. It's kind of hard to tell, but it is bolded. Maybe that makes it a little easier to tell that it's bolded. All right, and we lost the uppercaseness. All right. It says sometimes you will see the rules with a selector that lists the item along with the class, and that's what I meant. So this is any LI with the class of special. All right. As it says, some classes might be applied to many elements, and you don't want to keep having to put the name of the element every time, and that was why you could just put here just special. All right. Styling things based on their location in a document. It says there are times you will want something to look different based on where it is in a document. There's a number of elements or selectors you can use with this. Later, I believe, we'll look at first child, last child, things like that. So if we wanted the first element in a list or the last element in a list, etc. All right. It says in here, in our document, we've got 2M. Remember, M is short for emphasis, and it basically does the equivalent of setting something to italics. One inside of the paragraph and one inside the list item. To select only the M tag that's in the list item, we can use what's called the descendant combinator. So this says, I want EMs, but those EMs must be inside of an LI. So let's look at that. Again, as always, easiest way to show you, easiest way for you to learn this stuff is to just create a simple garbagey type of document and just start adding CSS to it to see exactly what's going to happen when you do that. All right, so all right, now you say, no, nothing happened. Well, hold on. This is now a different color as far as I can tell. And what was supposed to happen? We were supposed to take the LI that had an M tag in it and make it Rebecca purple. Well, what was that? Well, notice there's the M tag. So the word 3 should have been Rebecca purple. Now, Rebecca purple doesn't resonate all that well. So let's change this and we'll make it How about aqua? Okay. And let's see if that becomes aqua now. And it did. Now it's very hard to see, but you get the idea. All right. Now it says something else you might want to try styling in a paragraph is when something comes directly after a heading at the same level in the hierarchy in the HTML. So this is an adjacent, it's known as an adjacent sibling combinator. So we're going to look at that right now. All right. And this says right now, we want the paragraph that comes, I believe at least, immediately after our H1 to be double its regular size. Again, let's see if that worked. We copy, put that in here. Let's change this so it's a little easier to see. Let's just make it black. Now let's see if the first paragraph after our H1 is twice as big as the second one is. There's the first one. Now you already can tell that it's an uppercase. And now it is also twice as big. It's 200% the size of the other one. All right. So it looks more like this and this. Okay. All right. Says, as you can see, CSS gives us several ways to target elements, and we've only started to scratch the surface. Yeah, we're just starting. The final thing they're going to look at in this part of the tutorial is how to work with hyperlinks. Now, a couple things about this. There are different hyperlinks that you can use, different ways to handle a hyperlink. This says a link, and it'll be pink. This says visited, so the link, which normally would be blue, should now be pink. When we click on it, meaning we visited it, it normally goes purple. It'll now be green. And when we hover over it, it should not be underlined. So let's put all of those in here. I'm going to have to clear out this paragraph, but you'll see what I mean in just a sec. All right, so let's get rid of the paragraph that's here. And let's see if this works. Again, these are A means anchor. So this is a link that has not been clicked yet, a link that has been clicked, and a link we hover over. So let's look. Notice it's pink. We hover over it. The underline goes away. We click on it. It should go green. And it did. All right. Says we have removed the underline on our link on hover. You could remove the underline from all states of the link. You could do it. You can do this any way you want to or need to do this. Let's look at the note that's down near the bottom here. You will often see mention of accessibility in these lessons. When we talk about accessibility, we are referring to the requirement for our web pages to be understandable and usable by everyone, especially browsers for the blind. All right. A plain HTML document is generally accessible to everyone. As you start to style that document, it is important that you don't make it less accessible to some. All right, finally, it says it should be worth noting that you can have different combinators put together. So what does this say? This says this will style any element with a class of special that is inside of a P tag, which comes after an H tag, which is in the body, should be yellow with a background color of black and have that padding. So let's look. This example, in my humble opinion, is a little bit convoluted. Why would you typically want to do something like this? I don't know. I think they're just showing you this for effect. So if we come over here now and we All right. I'm not even sure in here exactly what has changed. Except this, I am a level 1 heading. This has gotten a lot smaller than it was before. All right. I think we're just about done then with this section that is right here. So as mentioned here in this tutorial, we took a look at a number of ways you can style a document using CSS. By no means is this complete. All right. So we've started to come in here and look at how it works. And next, so this was getting started with CSS. So next we're going to jump into how CSS is structured, and I'll be back with that momentarily.